I decided, I was like, okay, something has to be different here. And my soul knew it had everything to do with water. I didn't exactly know how, but there was something there. That connection with water was always there. And then that's when I found Kangen water, which means return to origin. I found Kangen water by accident, even though we know there are no accidents, divine stumbling upon, really. And I say this often to other women who come into this mission with us. My soul did not leave any room for my ego to fuck it up coming into this business.
Welcome, witches, to the Radiance Unleashed and Unapologetic podcast, your permission slip to embody your primal, raw, unapologetic nature around who you are as an empress, queen, a witch, and a medicine woman creatrix. My name is Saber. I am an esoteric global business mentor supporting women all around the world to align with their cyclical nature and how they're doing, being, and receiving in life and legacy. If you love what you receive in these transmissions in this show, please make sure to follow and leave a review. Make sure you share with a fellow witch and a sister. I am so honored that you're here to receive, enjoy, and blessings on your journey.
Underneath your flame, cut the cords around me as I speak your name. It's never gonna be the same. Even though I loved you, it was all in vain. And now I gotta break away. Put me in the water, tell me I'm renamed. Higher self reclaim.
Welcome, witches. I am so excited to be here with you today. Full transparency, the reason why I'm bringing this episode to you today is also because I am upgrading some serious magic and more layers of stepping into my power, choosing myself, and owning my voice and my message. So guess what? I got some crazy sinus congestion that's actually on its way out. So if I cough again in this episode, just like the first one when I launched this podcast, so it is, so it be known. I wanted to bring on my beautiful, I don't even know, like saying business partner is just so generic and so like, it's like calling it your divine union twin flame of boyfriend, you know? It's like, it's just not, there's not even a word that really describes the depth of magic that I'm co-creating with this sister, this water witch, this water wizard. There's so much more, we can go into that. This mama, this queen, this empress. I am so honored for you to actually hear from her today. Her and I have decided to partner up and really go on this long-term vision of doing castle coronation ceremonies for our water witches community around the globe at castles in Europe to do grid work with the land, with our bodies, with our temples, with the water, and to really anchor in a deep level of empowerment for up and coming facilitators, leaders, visionaries, healers, medicine women, mystics, who know that they are really truly ready to do business in a different way, to live in a different way, to be and collaborate in a different way. So we're just going to jam out today. We're just going to talk about what even is a water witch and what does a water witch do. So without further ado, Monica, I would love for you to introduce yourself to our audience and who you are.
Oh, thank you so much. Did you notice when you started to introduce me and like compliment me and edify me? Did you notice I sat up? a little taller. And
Yeah.
that was just my body responding to your love. And that felt beautiful. So thank you for your beautiful words and affirmations. And this is what co-creating with sisters, sacred sisters, gets to be like. You know, we get to speak posture and belief into one another. And so I really want to witness that shift in my demeanor and the way that I was carrying myself when you started speaking life and love into me. This is the future. This is the now. This is how we get to build wealth and create impact, an ocean of impact. So, thank you so much for that. I am so excited to be here and introduce myself and be in like a super relaxed, just kind of vibing, chill kind of mode because we create many structured pieces together. And so I'm going to do my best to just soften and open and share and trust that you will fully receive the love, integrity, and message that my soul wants to bring through right now in this now moment. Okay, so who am I? Wow. When I share, I know I was like, who? I don't know. Who am I? I'm just now figuring that out, actually. You know, I'm gonna share a little bit about my history and how I came to be a water witch, very much through the frequency and the fluidity of water itself. And I want to do that because when I look back, if you had asked me like 4 years ago if water was deep and close to me, it would have maybe gone over my head. But when I look back at the past and look at my childhood, it's always been there, you know, dripping on me, weaving its magic through my life and guiding me. So I'll start with when I was little. You know, people will say I was a mermaid growing up, you know, that are connected to water. Like I was a mermaid, I was always doing this, always doing that. And I, I would not consider myself a mermaid. Like I wasn't like, let's go swimming all the time. That wasn't my thing. I was actually like, I was like the mud puddle princess.
I love that.
That was my thing. Like I remember I had this core memory of growing up in the country and I would go and play by myself like all the time. Like I was little, probably running around playing in junkyards where I definitely could have gotten injured, probably shouldn't have been, but it was so fun and like playing in the woods. And I actually remember being so drawn to the little creeks and the little streams and even like the sewer. Not even kidding you. There because we lived in the country and so there was like this big like open, I don't even know what it was. I don't know. It was not a well, it was like a dirty well. And my parents would have to tell me, don't, that's dirty. Like don't go to that water. But I was still drawn to it because it was water. It's like I could see, it's like I could feel the essence of the water, even though it was full of sludge and whatever else. And so growing up in the country, always playing in mud puddles, getting stuck, climbing too high in trees, like that's who I was. And then when I was in fifth grade, my parents had divorced and we moved to the city. And it was like shock to the system. I was put in a Catholic school. I was baptized and got my first communion all in the same week. So I went from like nature is your God to like God is this male, he's judgmental, like mind your P's and Q's. If you're wealthy, you're going to hell through the eye of the needle, like all of these Bible verses that I didn't even understand. And so I created all these stories around my lack of worth, that I was going to be the one who didn't make it. For some reason, that was a story for me. Uh, and like there was no water. I was in the city, surrounded by pavement, and I actually became depressed. Fifth grade, I went into a deep depression, and I saw my way out of that through my voice. I started singing and I had a beautiful voice, and this is what carried me through was my voice. And so through high school and even through early college, I I was a singer and an actor, and actually ended up in Hollywood, Saber. I ended up in Hollywood for 6 months. And of course, I was drawn to the beach. I spent every free moment at the beach. There was a beach there called Point Doom, and I think it was close to Santa Monica, and it looked like the south of France. And so that's like I was lonely. I was probably drinking too much. I'm sure I was drinking too much. I just turned 21. Probably doing some drugs, like full transparency, probably some cocaine. And I was like my only solace, my only peace was the beach. And so fast forward, I came back home to the Midwest to Indiana, landlocked again. And then I was like again searching for myself. And I ended up um pregnant, had my first child at 25, ended up in a marriage that taught me lots of lessons, but was no longer serving me at some point. 3 kids. I became a nurse. I hated being a nurse because I'm like a medicine woman at my core. And I was just handing out narcotics. So this was when like water really became a savior in essence to me. This was like a core principle for me and my children was like, what water are we going to drink? Drink more water. I'm always like, drink more water. And I never knew what kind of water to drink. And so as a single parent, sole provider for my kids, unhappy nurse, again, I was getting back to that bottle of wine. I was probably drinking too much wine again. Okay. I decided I was like, okay, something has to be different here. And my soul knew it had everything to do with water. I didn't exactly know how, but there was something there. That connection with water was always there. And then that's when I found Kangen water, which means return to origin. I found Kangen water by accident, even though we know there are no accidents, divine stumbling upon, really. And I say this often to other women who come into this mission with us. My soul did not leave any room for my ego to fuck it up coming into this business. Like it was coming into the co-creation, becoming a water witch, saying like being a full body and soul, heavens yes, to impacting the world through the highest frequency water. There were lots of fears that came up because I was a single parent. I was the sole provider. Like, who was going to pay the bills? There was no plan B, right? It was either all in or dip your toe in. And that's not my personality, like dive in. And I felt the yes. I figured out how to start my own business through the frequency of water. And now here I am about 4 years later, living on a lake as a water witch, living my mission, like allowing myself to open up to a bigger vision, co-creating in sacred sisterhood. And the water was leading me the whole time. I'm living on this lake because I asked Kangen water when I was living in an apartment on a retention pond. Like, can I get a bigger body of water, please? And asking you shall receive. So here I am, absolutely feeling the embodiment of a water witch, but always going deeper because there's always a deeper level, right? The depths of the ocean remain uncharted. So always going deeper, and my body feels good. I feel younger than I've ever felt at 43. I'm not drinking wine anymore. This is what I fill my wine glasses with. I'm present with my children, and I am I'm grounding in magic into this world in a way that I never dreamt possible. Just pure magic. So that's Monica in a nutshell, or in a drop of water. That's a little bit about me.
I love it. Santé is what we say in France when we do cheers.
I love it.
Which is so funny because santé means health, and people are all doing that with alcohol. But we're over here doing it with water, with actual health, okay? Okay.
I love it.
I love it because you have your wine glass and I have my champagne glass.
Yes, it's
There's other
perfect.
things that go in this champagne glass. Maybe I may or may not share that later on, but libations for the water witches. Thank you so much for sharing that story. It was really cool to hear more of your background about, oh, excuse me, about where you were before you even became a nurse. Because for me, I only really knew that story of you being a nurse, and I love how the water's always been guiding you and being a part of your journey. And it had me reflecting back to my childhood around how the water's been a part of my journey. You know, I grew up in a place called Clear Lake. If anyone knows where that is, y'all are probably like, no way. But, 99.9% of the planet is like, where the hell is that? Um, Clear Lake is this tiny, tiny, tiny. Well, the whole place, the county is called Lake County. And there's all of these towns around this lake. So there's Clear Lake, Lower Lake, Upper Lake, Lakeport, these kinds of names. And but Clear Lake, Clear, I was able to swim in the lake when I was very, very young. Actually, before my life got really chaotic, my mom relapsed on substances when I can't remember if I was like 8 or 11. It's kind of a little bit foggy when I was around there, but I was her only sober baby. We were doing good. We were also on a lake, taking the boat on the lake, on seeing the fireworks on the 4th of July. Like things were really, really good until they weren't. And I just, as you were sharing this, I reflected on like, wow, the lake started to get unswimmable and full of toxins and dangerous algae around the time when my life started getting toxic and or like really dark. Isn't that interesting?
That's really interesting.
And I was living in a place called Clear Lake. And now
Wow.
no one wants to go there because it's like you don't go there unless you you know are not able to afford anything but living in a trailer and welfare, or if you have like a retirement home and you want to go fishing on the lake or something, which is why my mom was living there because my grandpa had a home there. And so when my mom left rehab when she got pregnant with me, really on this new chapter, it wasn't the best place for her to go, but it was a place that she could go, to get her feet on the ground, but it was really not a good environment. And so it's just interesting how the water reflects that in my journey. When you were sharing that,
Yeah.
I had not even thought of that. Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's
No,
huge.
that is so huge. And actually, when I started in Magic, I actually didn't even start for I really just started for the money ultimately because I was just in such deep scarcity. I watched my mom just borrow money from her mom and dad all the time, trying to make it together as a single mom. She had all of these gifts, but she wasn't able to really, I mean, she was able to, she just wasn't choosing herself and her own self-worth. She didn't have the people around her, she didn't have the right opportunity, the personal development that we have access to and everything. So for me, when I saw Magic, I just saw an opportunity to really reclaim that because I saw the numbers and I saw the lifestyle that people were living. So that was something that, yeah, it's funny, and Monica, I think you know this about me. I gave my Kangen machine away when I first started to a
I
woman that,
remember that.
yeah, she helped me out so much, the woman I gave it to, because, I was living in a bus at the time as an artist and traveling and living this like gypsy nomad, but also emancipated foster youth, broke artist, college dropout story. And when I started in Magic, I was like, okay, I just want to make sure it's not snake oil. I just want to make sure it's legit. I saw that it was a 50-year-old company. It felt really solid to me as a business aspect. But then I did have this disconnect actually for my first until I hit 6A, the first leadership rank, right? I think it took me probably like 2.5 years, which I believe if I was drinking the water, it probably would have been a lot sooner. A lot of my mentors always said that. They were just like, you're not drinking the water. But it's crazy. I actually hit 6 figures before I even got my first Kangen machine for myself. Um,
Wow.
I know. I placed it in my 6A lane when I got my
Yeah.
Kangen machine. And so, yeah, and then I finally started drinking it. And it actually wasn't until last year, Monica, that I grounded myself enough to even stay in one place. Like this place that I'm at right now, I've never lived anywhere this long, actually. It's been 14 months. I'm on my 15th month here. And so I've been drinking the water the whole time very consistently. And it woke me up. Like it woke me up in a lot of profound ways. And I love that you share that you don't drink wine anymore, because I think that there's this magic of enagic that happens when Kangen, meaning return to origin. The more that you drink the water, so many things come into balance in your life. And it just has you, it's like when you connect with your womb, right? We were talking about that with the women in our master heart. Is a lot of women, the more they're connecting with their wombs, they're starting to have clearer yeses and clearer nos and starting to have that stronger discernment. So imagine what happens when you put the right water in your body, you know? Like I was struggling hardcore with mental health actually. In my first 3 years in Enagic, I was very successful. I had a $300,000 year in 2023. But what was interesting was it was very surface for me. It was very, because I wasn't allowing myself to go deep as the ocean, right? I was focusing on the money and the lifestyle, which I really needed to reclaim that for myself. I needed to do that. You know, I needed to have that experience of make all this money and go travel in places and have these experiences, stay in 5-star hotels. And, you know, no one in my family ever imagined doing that. You know, like even my mom, we watched Leonardo DiCaprio on the movie The Beach when he was in Thailand. And I was like, I want to go to Thailand. And my mom just looks at me and she's like, we don't travel, you know? And so for me, I went to, I believe it was 7 different trips in 2023, and I just really lived it up. But there was just always something missing, and it was my connection to spirit. It was my connection to spirit overall. However, Kangen water and the spirit of Kangen water helped me deep in that relationship, deeper than, I mean, I've even done, you know, ayahuasca ceremonies and plant medicine ceremonies and yoga and you know, I've been in the spiritual community for like 15 years, but it was really connecting with the spirit of Kangen water and nourishing my soul with these other aspects, but Kangen water being that ally to really explore the depths of my soul. It's really hard to articulate it in words, but I ultimately figured it out in the bathtub on mushrooms, actually. In the bathtub with my Anespa water, which we talk about this on our Liquid Legacy Masterclass, that like the Anespa Enagic's shower filter has these minerals from Japanese hot springs that are called onsen, and the lineage tradition in Japan is that in the onsens, you're able to connect with spirits. And so we're all, you know, people see Enagic at a surface level. It's like, okay, it's this water machine, right? This water ionizer, medical grade water. Yes, it's amazing for your health. You can make incredible money from it, generational wealth. But it was actually the equinox last year. Full circle, full circle.
I love it.
I was like, I ate the mushrooms and I just had these, you know, I'd fill up my water and it says Kangen, well, mine says Ukangen ne poisson because it's in French. And I'm like, oh my God, this water's speaking to me every day is what the download came through. And I was like, oh, and I filled up this bath and I just started splashing it all around my bathroom. And I was like, I
Okay,
hear
I
you.
trust that
I
this
get it
message
now. You're
landed
here
for
every single
you. And
day. I
yes,
brush my
queen,
teeth with
goddess,
you. I
witch,
drink
at the
you
right
every day. I
time,
pee you
in the
out
right
every day,
place,
like
in the
multiple
right
times a
way.
day. Like
Again, make
you're
sure you
everywhere.
leave a
You
review,
are
5
here.
stars
I
if
am
you
not
feel it resonated
alone.
for
I am
you.
not
And I'm really looking
like
forward to hearing
I
from you
just felt
what
so
resonated with
disconnected
you
and
in
so
this
lonely
episode
and
over on
so
Instagram at the Rich Witch
I don't
Prophet.
even know how to say,
You can
like,
check out the
depressed
free
really was where I was at
masterclass
that
Liquid
point in my
Legacy
life.
to
And that
learn how
connection
women
to the
all around the
water
globe are getting paid to be in
had me
their most
realize
authentic
life,
magnetism in collaboration
to
with
put it
water
into
witches
perspective,
around the
truly.
world.
So
I'll see you
anyway,
soon.
I'm going to close that thought loop because there's a lot that I can go on with it. But I'm curious for you, Monica. Excuse-moi. Hopefully that's not too loud in your ears, listeners. For the listeners, because gosh, there's so many people who are probably listening who have heard of Enagic before, right? And what me and you are weaving together is something beyond the veil. It's something like beyond what we we're doing our darndest to explain it in 3D terms on like webinars, right? And this is what's really fascinating to me is that you and me are connecting in this whole different way of how we see water as life and water as this interconnection with all of us and the connections of water and wealth and how it literally, this word water fits phrase, water fits whatever container that it goes in. And what we see is that this liquid legacy, this living entity of Kangen water, we truly believe in our hearts every single person needs man, woman, witch, wizard, whatever. So I'm curious for you, how do you convey what does a water witch do?
Yeah. Okay. So something that intuitively was coming for me really clearly as you were sharing is I was actually hearing the water speak to me and asking, what have I done for you?
Mm,
What have I done for you? And so, how does that relate to a water witch? For me, the best way to describe what a water witch is a water witch actually asks water, what can I do for you? And I'm feeling emotional saying that. You know, I look at my ionizer, my K8 water ionizer that creates my beautiful Kangen water for me sitting on my counter. And there are many times where I've looked at it and I thought, wow, this little machine has completely transformed my life, has offered me a level of sovereignty from the system. I didn't want to be a bedside nurse anymore. Sovereignty from even the school system. It allowed me the opportunity to homeschool my kids. It afforded me the opportunity to not be under the thumb of any disempowered masculine energies that came in many forms in my life. And it brought me to this home. And I think now, what do I give back? How can I give back to the frequency of water? Because she has given me so much already. And we came. I mean, I believe that we as water witches came to heal the waters of the planet. And we do this on many levels when we align with Enagic and with sacred sisterhood within this space. When we are willing to go deeper than just how many machines can I sell? How many ranks can I hit? How many bonus checks can I achieve? We are, healing the lakes that you talked about, Saber, the lake that you grew up on that became so toxic because we're not contributing to toxic plastics and all of the waste that goes in to the waterways because of the way that the water industry is designed. And we, I think too is think about how the planet is affected every time you pull the plug on in your drain after bathing in an Nespa, after saying yes to running that water through those minerals that hold ancient spirit energy. We're actually putting that water beyond just our tub and our physical bodies. We're putting it into the waterways. And I have chills all over saying this. It's the highest frequency water, and we are frequency beings. We are electrical beings. If we are drinking dead water, which I don't believe any water is really dead. I'm sorry, water. I don't mean it. I don't mean to. I, I don't mean to say it like that, but like distilled water, reverse osmosis water, depleted water, unstructured water, altered water, it's not supporting our frequency shift. And we know as water witches that it's all rapidly expanding right now, and that includes us. And so as we say yes to loving the earth back into life through the water that we choose on a daily basis, she loves us back by giving those codes and allowing us to open up to a deeper level of who we actually are, remembering. Because we're not learning anything, we're remembering all of the things that we chose to forget coming into this matrix game and literally saying yes to saving the planet. And so, to paraphrase that, a water witch is someone who asks, what can I do for the water? What can I do for the waters? And then by default, we get to fill our own cup and overflow into the world. And the money is a byproduct. The currency is a byproduct.
I love that. Thank you so much for that.
Mm.
Makes me think about that image that I had ChatGPT create of the Japanese woman that represented the spirit of Kangen water. And particularly with that image, I told ChatGPT, I was like, don't just put a bunch of white people there. I was like, you need to because with Enagic, they've got 48 offices around the globe, even in Africa and in Dubai, like we've got every area covered now. So in this particular image, it's got you can see that it's got Middle East, it's got the old, it's got the next generation, it's got women, it's got men, it's got all shapes, it's got all of this. So I just think of water as ever giving, life giving, and wants to give back to humanity. And I love that you say around what can I do for the water? Because I remember when I had that moment, just having this big awakening with the water that comes out of my tub and just the waters in general on that plant medicine journey on the equinox last year. One of the biggest things that was bestowed on me in that moment was the spirit of Kangen water and legacy and what that really means and her legacy. It's like not even just my legacy or your legacy that we're creating, it's her legacy. And it was basically just telling me, you've been chosen. Like the water chose, Kangen water chose me, Kangen water chose you to be a conduit, as water is a superconductor, right? To be a conduit for what's actually channeling through to actually birth and bring people together. And, I don't speak Arabic or Chinese or Spanish or these kinds of things, but guess what? In a model like this, all it takes is meeting somebody who also speaks that language and my language, who Kangen water chooses. And if they're open to really being in that stillness and listening to the wisdom that comes through, they're the ones that get to bring their people and their lineage and their culture with them. So that's what I think is so beautiful. I had this vision of how it's just so clear to me that it's here to really bring oneness together with people. And you're right, the money is such a byproduct. And that's the part that I was missing. I mean, sure, I have done so much personal development even before drinking the water, just being in our community and just healing my relationship with money and everything, right? But I think the truest thing that the water is really activating within me and that I'm seeing within any of the women in our community is when you take that out of the focus, it's actually what is it that, how are you in service to your waters and the water and the planet and humanity? And it's this bigger question, it's this bigger ask that so many people don't even think that they even have the possibility to take up that much space to even ask themselves. Do you know what I mean? Like the person that I was telling you about that I quote unquote scared away from my vision, but he was such an amazing human being. He was talking about how he really loves to, take care of his community. He wants to live in this beautiful eco village with the castle. Like it's my vision. However, he can't get to that working the way that he's working, He can't. And when I brought up my vision, it scared him. And I was like, how does people have these dreams, but nobody has the solution for it. So there are always these dreams that are in them of like, he said, I do deep down desire. And that's where everybody's dreams are. It's like deep down, deep, deep, deep down, just buried. And what I really love is that when you find this community, you start to actually find what's actually possible. It just takes there's no ceiling on your potential, and you realize that. So you finally get to actually ask yourself those deeper questions. If I wasn't working, 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and I'm living for the weekend, if that wasn't my reality, what would I actually want to create? On a serious note, not just a like, oh, this would be nice, but on a serious note, and actually devote every waking moment to get into alignment with that. You start to change everything. You start to change how you spend your time, your money, your energy, the conversations you have. You start to recognize what's not in alignment, and you start to shed things and say no to things and take bolder risks because it's not actually a risk. You know that there's like this high timeline that's actually there for you. And other people around, they're just like, you did what? You said you spent how much on a water machine? You did, they're just like in this space. But the potential that's there for you. So, gosh, I don't even know how long we've been talking. Let me look at the time. Oh, okay. That's a good time. So, oh, gosh. I would love for you to expand on this aspect of devotion, because I know we talk about this to our empresses and our master heart, it's not just about taking the action anymore to build a life like this, right? If it was just about taking the action, sure, we can go work a regular job and clock in, But it's not about just taking the action to truly live a life in your fullest expression that your water truly desires. So what do those practices look like? Like maybe for the listeners, like, look, there's probably going to be so many people that still don't even understand what the heck we're talking about until they click on the dang link in the show notes that says Liquid Legacy Masterclass and they watch it, which, yes, lovely listeners, it is a free training that shows you what it is we do and how this works. But there's also a lot of people that could really benefit before they're even ready for that step, how they can actually invite this type of embodiment, this type of way of being into their frequency, what wisdom do you have to share there? And then I think we can unpack some of the things that we've been doing to do this, which that's going to be a fun conversation.
I love it. Well, I feel like devotion looks very different from one person to the next, you know? I think that for someone like me who is running a lot with kids, I've got 3 kids, and they have a lot of activities, that devotion looks different than someone like Saber who has a lot of time with herself and her fur babies, right? And we're different ages. And so I will speak to what my shift into deeper devotion looked like. The first thing, which actually is quite surface, honestly, and some people are going to say, huh? What do you mean that's surface? But it really is meditation. Is actually like the first step for me was a 5-minute meditation every day. And that was just a baby step. And there's a lot of people who are like, I can't do meditation for 5 minutes a day. Like my mind is too busy. Like that's the point. Take 2 minutes, take 5 minutes. That's a level of devotion that allows you to access the bigger part of you. Earlier, when you were talking about, you mentioned something about, I swear you used the word problem. I don't remember what context you use it in, but like, or like the how, like how can I dream so big? Like what would that even look like? I can't even access that. Well, you can. It's the human aspect of you. It's the part of you that's constricted by the skin, that can't access that big dream because it's not actually there. It's not actually inside of the physical body. It's part of your consciousness, and your consciousness is like the all that is. And so when I became willing to devote myself to just being as silent and as still as I could for 5 minutes, that's when my whole world started to change. And I was in the thick of it, y'all. Like I was in the middle of the divorce. It was not pretty. I was in a home that needed to be sold within a certain amount of time. I did not have the money I needed. Like there are all sorts of excuses. I was in my sympathetic nervous system. There are so many reasons why I could have said that I don't have time to devote myself to me. But I did it anyway, because nothing changes if nothing changes. And so that was my first step to actually devoting myself to the bigger part of me, devoting myself to the dreams that I didn't even know what they were at the time. But I knew there was something bigger there. And I knew that the only way I was going to access it is by stopping, quieting, and like, that feeling you get around you when you're like quiet, silent, not moving, you kind of feel the field moving around you. Like that's where all the magic is. And so that was my first devotional practice. But then you get to weave that devotion into everything that you do all day long. Now, am I perfect at it? No. Do I catch myself like tossing the food and putting the sandwich together quickly? Yeah, I do catch myself sometimes. But like, if we can devote ourselves to the presence of the nourishment that we're about to put in our body, it becomes magical. And so that's another piece of devotion is like when I love cooking food now. I used to hate cooking food. It was like a chore. It's like, I don't want to do it. I don't have time for it. Had me stressed out, sweating. And now it's like I'm present with the pieces of earth that she has gifted me. I speak to the food. I thank the food. I bless the food before it goes into my body and my children's bodies. So another piece of devotion, and I could name so many things because just slowing down a little bit and being the observer of what you're actually doing, not just mindlessly doing it, but like actually observing your level of presence, everything gets to be a devotional practice. And then you start getting gifted by the earth and by spirit, by the field because of your presence. It becomes bliss. Devotion is bliss. And when you start cultivating that feeling of bliss, even when you're like taking a pee, you know, then the universe gives you lots more experiences that are blissful. And then you literally feel like you're building your heaven on earth. Like it's a real thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that is so juicy. I love
Isn't that
that.
juicy? Ah, it's like turning the mundane like into the magical, right? From mundane to magical. Like it really all gets to be magical. Even the drive, all
Yeah,
of it.
love it. Ooh, that's so good. And you've really been inspiring me so much on this. I feel like my take on this is very much around the body, but yours
Mhm.
is very much around it's like a grounded invitation. And I love that because, I'll be honest, I actually use guided meditation so much as like a bit of a crutch. And sometimes I think we need that as to invite, a way to hold us a bit accountable for actually staying in that space. But you told me you were like, you need to go outside and put your feet on the ground yesterday. And now I'm like, what? Why have I not been doing that? I've been making excuses of like, oh, I mean, sure, it is freaking cold here in Paris. I've never lived anywhere where I've owned a parka before. I just never have. So I just have adjusted to that. But really recognizing how important it is to be in that grounded presence energy. I was actually going to mention to you today when I was walking around, even just that experience that I did yesterday. And as I was telling you, I invited the plant medicine of Mary Jane, marijuana back into my life. And just last weekend, when I first smoked it for the first time in like 2 years, I used to think that I had anxiety when I smoked marijuana. And as I sat with it and I had these feelings come up, and I was like, what actually is that? Now that I'm in a totally different space than I was 2 years ago, right? I'm on Kangen water. I'm like, what actually is that? And it was like, girl, I'm showing to you how present you can actually be, but you have been avoiding me like the plague, and you are so afraid of it. And it's not even the void that you're afraid of, it's who you become in the void.
Mm.
Actually,
Ooh.
you're afraid of your own power. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just invited that and I just kept breathing and feeling all the sensations, like not resisting it. Because seriously, I'm very curious to, as I keep working with it, I would like to smoke in public again. Like maybe go to a dance space or something and smoke and be seen, because there was a moment where, gosh, I smoked a lot of weed when I was like 12 years old until I was 21 or something. And there was something that shifted around there. Um, it's funny because I feel like it's when I started inviting psychedelics, when after I went to my first Burning Man and tried LSD for my first time. And I always was like, maybe it just opened too many portals up. But I was like, no, it had me understand my ego a little bit more. Like my ego got unveiled on psychedelics. So then it was like integrating that with marijuana. But suddenly I was like, I can't smoke weed around people. Like it's just it felt too vulnerable. But there was always something there for me of this deep, deep presence that like I could do like, downward dog. But when you do downward dog and you're like stoned, there's a whole nother layer. You feel I feel like I could feel my blood pumping through my veins. I could literally feel that level
Wow.
of sensation. Yeah. And for me, this is where it comes to the body. It's when I finally get back into my body with things like this. And this is why I love plant medicines because not as a crutch, but as a way to, it gives you the sensation. And then you're like, okay, how do I reconnect with that without it? Right. So it's like, then you dabble in it again and reinvite it. And it's like, weave in and out of it, in and out of it. So you can start integrating it into your reality. And anyway, so this was just like, I don't even know, last weekend before the sickness came up, actually. So funny. I got sick right after this whole 12-hour ceremony that I did. But today I was walking around here in Paris, in my neighborhood that I've been living for, I'm on my 15th month now, and I just was seeing so much that I didn't see before. Like so
Wow.
much. I sat at the Jardin du Luxembourg that I live near. Not gonna tell anyone exactly where because it's a very famous garden, but I'm very close to it. I'm so blessed. It's literally 2 minutes outside my house. And I sit there and I find this tree and I just sit at the base of the tree. It fit my pelvic bowl area just perfectly in the ground. I took my shoes off and I laid against the tree. The sun was right in front of me. And I was like, just really soaking it all in and just grounding and being present. And I felt so much more present in my body than ever before. I could catch myself like wanting to open my eyes and look around and kind of just like be in my head and that. And I was like, wow, I'm seeing that and observing that so much more in me. And then when I was walking around, I just found new spaces just in my neighborhood that I'm in right now. And it was just so beautiful. Meditation really is the foundation. It really, really is like that presence and that foundation. Because some of the things that I'll share, you could do plant medicines and I'm not condoning do plant medicines on your own. However, I really recommend anybody who's exploring and is curious about it. You can't just like go seek it necessarily. You just like call it into the field and you'll know when the right person comes up that will guide you there. That's how plant medicines work. But I think it's really important when people are exploring something for the first time that it's in a very safe environment, whether it's like a ceremony, someone that's a practitioner that really holds the space, and really use your intuition around that. Um, but even then, it's like it's not the solution. There are people that do ceremonies at the hoo-ha, but they are the most ungrounded people that I know. you know? So
Hmm.
it's an ally. These ceremonies, rituals, spells, like the herbs, the candles, the everything. It's it's an accent, it's an amplifier, but it's an amplifier of kind of what's already going on. But if your foundation needs to be rooted in that grounded presence, right? So yeah, I'm just so grateful that the synergy of like what I bring and what you bring, and we're sharing these magic, weaving our magic together and how we support ourselves to support each other, to support the collectives, to support our mentorships is it's just such a beautiful synergy. Because for me, I already mentioned I love working with plant medicine when it calls me, but one of the things that I really feel like anchors my devotion is having an altar. Like an altar just anchors in my connection so deep. And some people get real simple with their altar. They'll be like, okay, here's like my little Ganesha statue and like my little crystal and but I just feel like the more energy you can really, really put into your altar. I mean, if you're seeing the video of this and you see behind me, this has been like it's like a fusion. And there's been times where I have just really, it's like the artist in me comes out within it, right? Where it's like really intentionally, and it comes over time. A lot of these things, some of the things were already here in this apartment when I came here, but some of the things I already had or that I accumulated over time or whatever. But all of us have so much magic around us already that I find it so powerful to really drop into that space and intentionally create an altar to anchor that you're actually going to connect with every day. Every day, it just brings me such an anchor. And it can be really simple at first, but that anchor every day, you start to feel more into what actually comes to it, and the more energy that you put to it with your presence. And you go outside, you find more, I don't know, you're like, oh my God, this stick, or oh my God, this leaf. You find something, you're like, wow. And it just keeps expanding. It like expands with your consciousness. For me, like this is what magic is all about, is like your energy. The more energy you infuse, it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter the material thing, but it's your energetic infusion.
Devotion.
Devotion, exactly. So it's kind of expanding on this presence aspect. It's like there's the being, but it's also just about really intentionally channeling that energy. And I believe how you do anything is how you do everything. So imagine you bring this presence and this channeling of energy to an altar, which the altar is just the physical representation of your devotion, right? To anchor it into your 3D reality. It starts to ripple out in the way that you are and everything else. So your mission, your business, your children, your body temple, your food, the way your home looks, how you do everything starts to actually, you start to channel more of your essence with it, because you're developing this practice and this devotion, this relationship to actually expand that essence. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
like that to me, that's like that's a spell. Like a spell, yes, can be spelling through your voice, but it's also about just what we do. Because I've gone through this through, you could paint the picture through anything that you do. I think about my dance practice. I literally used to be somebody who said I could never dance and move my body. I just said that when I was growing up. I was so afraid to move my body. And as I started to actually, I started with fire dancing, which is hilarious. Not a lot of people will start fire dancing without any dance experience.
Would. You would.
I would. But when I first saw fire dancing, I just saw these people just with so much grace and so much confidence, and they just like so much joy. And I was like, it was everything that I wanted. I wanted to feel that from the inside out. And this woman, the first time I ever saw fire dancers, she like came up to me with her fans to blow the last flame out, and I blew it out. And these people that I was with, they were like, "Oh!" And I was like, "She came up to me," and I had like stalked her on the internet. I somehow found her on Suggested Friends or something on Facebook. This was like back in, I don't know, 2013. And I found her at another show, at a like circus show that I went to, because then I was starting to check out dance performances. And I see her, I know her name, so I called her name, Valerie. Shout out to Valerie if you're listening to this podcast. Valerie Soldade. I just yell Valerie, and she comes and runs to me, and she gives me a big old hug, and I don't even remember what she said, but she basically just invited me to her house to um, fire dance with her. And I was like, I can't do that. She's like, yeah, you can. You could do anything. And then she left. And I was like,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. And I was like, okay. And so like I went to this woman's house, and I'm like, and it was so beautiful, the expansion that she invited me to. And that was the beginning of my dance practice. And a lot of it was for me to get this confidence in just being seen first and foremost. So I got to like learn how to just get this like this I'm trying to figure out the words for it. This this part of me, that the star inside of me that just wanted to shine and be seen.
yeah, like emanate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to crack that out. So I did that for years, and it expanded me into like things like burlesque and aerial silks and pole and belly dance. And it's just to wrap this up is belly dance to me became what brought everything together of like the full essence of the body because you isolate all pieces and parts, right? And it's a devotional dance. It's a devotional dance of the divine feminine. So I have deepened from just like this wanting to just be seen and shine as the star to really like, how do I be seen? Not even for other people necessarily to be seen, but for actually me to see me. And
Mm.
it has
Mm.
been a deeper, yeah, it's been a deeper, a deepening of my essence that has amplified my magic. And now I fuse everything I do with my dance. It's like temple dance, embodiment dance, divine feminine dance. Belly dance is the movement of the divine feminine. And that's just an example of how you fuse your energy and your devotion and your attention, your intention to something, right? I didn't just like go to dance classes to just go to dance classes to show other people, right? Maybe it started as that. But over time, it became this really deep spiritual practice that really deepened and that actually sustained too, that became true self-mastery. And so that's kind of how I see women who partner with Enagic too, is like, sure, you could focus on the money all you want, but until you actually recognize that you're really truly doing this for you, that's when you get consistent. That's when you show that true devotion. That's when you start to feel truly embodied. That's when people start to really feel you, not just see you, but feel you. That's
Yeah.
when your magnetism gets really turned on, is when you deepen this connection with your inner power from this place of that sovereign, full energetic choice in yourself and your connection to the divine.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, another devotional practice is the company you keep. And that's a core like tenet of Enagic is, maybe you are not at a point right now where you can quite access like what is that big vision and like who even am I? Or maybe you are at a place where you've expanded your business so much, you're like, is it even possible to expand it? Like, do I even have the capacity to expand anymore? And what if part of your devotion got to be the company that you keep, the sacred sisterhood that you engage with, because that is everything. We're not meant to be in hermit mode forever. We're not meant to build businesses on our own. We are tribal by nature. We are meant to build with our sisters. That is what the earth needs, the world needs, we need. And so, just to be in devotion with who I'm engaging with on a daily basis and the things that I do that are so different from what Saber does and vice versa. We are literally coding each other, anchoring codes individually that then get to be amplified by our engagement with one another, our devotional practices coming together. So, I just love it. So juicy.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I love that you wrapped it to the company that you keep because I knew that this episode was going to be quite ethereal is the word that I can think of. It's something that, what is a water witch? Well, water is fluid. We are enagic distributors at its core, but that's like, you can't even, it's like the term boyfriend for your divine union. It's just not, it does not encapsulate the depth of what is really possible in what we are creating because we thought that we were just starting quote unquote affiliate marketing, high ticket affiliate marketing, right? You see this on the internet. High ticket affiliate marketing, live a digital nomad, laptop lifestyle. And if that never really fully sat well with you, you're like, you know that you're here for a deeper mission, a deeper purpose. But you also love the idea of having a high ticket passive stream of income that will eventually create you generational wealth. You found your community here with our water witches. Like, this is what we do. This is the essence of the oceans of waters that we are birthing and creating here. And this is why I wanted to bring Monica on, because we are birthing something that has never been done in Enagic. We have our first ever reclamation coronation ceremony happening on Beltane in England, in a 300-year-old castle with a goddess Diane, who represents divine feminine leadership, carved on the side of the dang building. And it's just absolutely phenomenal, because right now what we're doing is for women who are feeling this process of rebirth in their mission and how they show up in the world. And they're looking for that ongoing solution to expand their impact from a drop to beyond a puddle, to beyond a lake, to a true ocean and wave of impact. We're inviting women to come into our community and co-create and collaborate. Maybe you collaborate at some of these castle retreats. Maybe you collaborate with us mainly online. It could be online, offline, whether you do dance, sound healing, feminine embodiment work. You teach or lead just in the energy of empowerment for women in their magic and medicine. There's a way that you can actually partner with us and have an exclusive invitation to our reclamation coronation ceremony. This year is on Beltane, but we're going to be doing them yearly at different parts in Europe, recoding the land in different parts of this incredible place. I mean, it may even expand beyond Europe, but for now, Europe is where it's at, because for me, that true ancient empire builder architect, there's a lot of recoding that we get to do with these castles, right? That once represented such distorted, toxic power. And so what we're doing with Enagic, that's literally never been done before, is we're integrating ceremony, we're integrating our magic and our medicines and our communities, and weaving them in this way where it's basically what we're already doing as leaders, facilitators, visionaries, coaches, healers. But we get to blow the cap off of the potential, our impact, our income, but more importantly, our magic, and finally actually truly embody it without any sacrifice. Actually imagine what that looks like. You don't have to sacrifice your time, your money, or your freedom of where you are, and still be on your mission. Beyond that, but even expand your mission deeper than you can even imagine. Because a lot of people that we speak to that are doing amazing work in the world, there are still limitations. But in this space of Kangen water, you get to return to the origin of who you are on a soul level without limitations. What does that actually look like? And do you dare to dream that it's actually possible for you? If so, you got to watch our Liquid Legacy Masterclass. Girl, I'm telling you. Witches, empresses, you got to watch this masterclass. It's free. It will show you what's possible, and you'll feel it. You'll feel it. And just like the water chose us, it's going to tell you, is it your time? So, do you have anything else you would like to share with our audience before we wrap this up?
Just a thank you. I thank you for being in devotion for yourself and your presence and taking the time to watch this and share space with us. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yay, thank you.